Well, my name is Julie Spack, and we're gonna talk tonight about the college essay. I was a college admissions officer at the University of New Hampshire for many years, and then I got my master's in counseling. I was school counselor for many years, and now I've been in Pennsylvania 15 years. And once people find out you work in college admissions, you are one busy human being, okay? So I have been working as an independent counselor helping students of all kinds, and I love it. And I love sharing information. I love helping students do really well in the college essay portion. Okay, so I was very happy. I heard most of the presentation tonight. I just didn't hear the last two speakers on the panel, but I was really happy, and I'm sure you were too, to hear some really good information about the college essay. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, how important are the college essays? Okay, in general, the more selective the school is, the more it's going to count. Okay? Pennsylvania state system, 14 schools. There are a few schools that don't require an essay. I mean, there'll be some schools that your students won't have to submit personal statements. Then there'll be the next layer of students. The next schools like Westchester, Penn State, you know, they're all going to require personal statements. And then the highest level, of course, when we heard somebody from an Ivy League tonight, the more, I was very happy to hear how directly she talked about how important the personal statement can be. Okay? How much do they matter? Okay, people ask this all the time. It's a very hard thing to qualify exactly, and we don't always know specifically, but depending on the school, usually between 10 and 30%. That would be my guess. Okay? Smaller, more selective schools look at the big picture of the student, and they're used to differentiate students one from another. In a school like Penn, like how many valedictorians are there in this country, do you think? What do you think? How many high schools do we have in America? I think it's over 40,000, okay? So if you say, oh, every valedictorian should be able to get into an Ivy League school, it's not really true. You have to have the goods, you know, the academic transcript, and you need to meet the profile, but then it's the other things, and she spoke to that very directly, which I was happy to hear. And that's how they find out about these other things, you know, through your essay. Okay? An amazing essay, look at the fourth point, will not get you into a top school on all its own, though. Some people, especially those who are very gifted writers, and I have in my time seen some amazing essays, but if the student does not have the stuff to back it up. And I always say, to me, it was like doing a puzzle. I would happily read the whole application, save the best for last, the essay, and you should get that piece you've been searching for, and it all fits perfectly. It all makes perfect sense. That's how I look at it in a very holistic way. However, if your essay is poorly conceived and written, and they talked about some of those things, it can negatively affect your application. And that's something that we want to make sure our students are presenting themselves in the best light. You know, certainly not talking about things that could, if you don't know exactly who is going to be reading it. Of course, you know it's an admissions officer. You want your essay to shine a bright light, a happy light on the student. Okay? What are the admissions officers looking for in your essay? Okay? And Anna from Penn said this too. Who is this person? Who are you? What will you contribute to campus? This is super important. Is the student, and especially with students who are very academically motivated, I think when you're getting to the highly selective schools, it's even more important that you are going to be able to take advantage of what that school offers. They really are looking for that. They're looking for a mutual agreement, you know, a fit, the word college fit. Can this person write? Hopefully, no parent wrote the essays, right? Okay, a 17-year-old has a very different voice than somebody who's 16, 17 years old, okay? What can we learn about this person that was not on their transcript? And somebody had that tip today too, and that's super important. I always try to help my students find a topic that may not have been really illuminated somewhere else on their application. Have them, it's an opportunity for them to learn something new about you, and that's what you want to do, okay? All right, what should the essay be about? There's just one word, you, okay? It needs to be about the student. They want to get to know who you are, what you value and care about. Are you going to be a good roommate? Are you going to be somebody who takes advantage of what the school, are you going to join clubs? Are you going to positively influence others around you? Okay, I've been in many admissions decisions where, and I will tell you, it really did come down to, we would say when we were, sometimes the admission committee gets together to deliberate, and the question is, would you want your kid to room with this kid? I mean, it can come down to that, okay? They want to know what matters to you, they want to know what fascinates you, and they want to know who you are, okay? Now, for those of you who like to have all the data and all the details, this slide is for you, okay? The Common App prompts. The Common App, if you don't know what it is yet, it's about 700 schools. 3 years ago, 400 schools used it. Last year, about 500. This year, we're up to 700. Schools use the Common App. And I love that somebody touched on this, but I wanted to say it a little bit more. What it means is it is easier to apply to more schools than you might need to. But you write one Common App essay and it can go to all the schools. There are 7 prompts, and this is the 3rd year. We're going into the 3rd cycle now. So for those of you who are freshmen, sophomores, juniors, I can't guarantee that this will be what it is for your students, but I just want to give you an idea. I want to give you the backstory. And then I have the percentages. But basically, if you look at the very last one, share an essay on any topic of your choice. I mean, so basically, the student can write about anything, which is fantastic. But I just thought, for those of you who are really worried about it, you could look at that. Okay? Supplemental essays. What are supplemental essays? Usually, selective schools have additional questions that they want you to answer. Now, here's some information that I can give you for this year coming up that's for sure. It's a little frustrating, but it's August 1st is when you find out the admissions applications go live for the next year. So you can get ready for your Common App essay, but each school, each year, even if they're on the Common App, can decide to have extra questions. Now, I can give you some examples, like Wake Forest, for example. Any student that I work with that's working with Wake Forest, I'm like, okay, people, we got to get ready. Okay, they have about, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 extra essays. Lehigh used to have more, now they have less. Like, it changes a little bit every year. So just when you think that you just have to do one beautiful essay, not true. Okay? Especially any Ivy League school, highly selective schools tend to have an essay called Why this school? So that's more work that you're going to have to get used to. And I just want you to see right here that these are just some examples of what other questions might be asked. Okay? So they can add up. So when I'm working with students and trying to figure out their college list, how much workload they have, we take the number of weekends divided by the number of schools, especially when you have supplementals, because students really need to put if you're going to apply to the school, you need to do a good job on that application. And you want to make sure you have the time to submit something. And supplementals are per school. Like there's not a lot of cross-breeding going on. I mean, they really are things that you have to sit down and work through. Okay? All right. Values exercise. So we're going to do an activity. You guys excited? Do you think we have enough? I do. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to give you each. I'll do this side. Oh, you had one right there. Okay. Is that one? Oh, there's 2. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. You psyched? Hey, if you come, you have to do the work, right? Okay. Here we go. All right, so this right here, what do I value? So you're going to have 2 minutes. Everybody's doing it. Okay, there's also online link to get a fresh copy that, this his website. So if you write, don't worry if you write on it and want to get another copy. So you have 2 minutes to go ahead and read all of these values. And I want you to mark down anywhere from 5 to 10 of the ones that mean the most to you. If you want to do more, that's fine too. Okay? So anything that means a super lot to you, with the idea of your values, what you would stand up for, things that you've been involved with, just try your best and write down the things that you feel illuminate who you are and what you stand for, please. Okay, that was 2 minutes. I realize we're on a tight time frame today. So, this is yours to keep, so please flip over the page. And I know you know this was coming. So of those, can you please, and you don't necessarily have to do this now, but just try to take a stab at. Write the ones. Let's bring it down to 5. Can we bring it down to 5? Then we're going to bring it down to 3, and then of course we don't have the full time. This exercise usually takes about 10 minutes total, and then we're asking you to pick your top value. Now, why do you think this is important before we start to write essays? Any ideas? Okay. I know it's late at night. It's been a long day. We're not doing a Q&A, Julie. Just answer the question. Okay. Just tell me. Just tell me. Okay, so I'll tell you. This is the exercise I use with young people when I don't know them very well. And I learned this from Ethan Sawyer. Now, I used to do it my way because I'm a counselor, so I would talk to students and I would learn what their values are. But this is a really fast way to get to know somebody more quickly. And it also helps your student, and I feel it also helps with your college list. Because I also like students to go on the websites and see what the mission statement of the college is, look at the keywords they use, do the values of their school. This really helps with fit too. But the next thing we want to do, because you're here to learn about the college essay, is I want you to look at my second to last bullet. Show common values in an uncommon way. Because these are all common values. And that's the struggle that we have. When we're writing a college essay, we all have good, everybody has good qualities. Every single human being on this planet. But we don't want our essay to be boring, am I right? So we want to show your values, what means the most to you, in a way that is uncommon. So, can you just share one of yours? Compassion? Compassion. So what would be a common way to describe compassion? What do you think, Stephanie? What's a common way?
Putting others' needs first, or trying to understand their situation.
All
trying to see things from their vantage point.
Yeah, like maybe being a peer, I'm compassionate, I'm a peer mediator, or, you know, something like that. Like that's a common thing that somebody who's compassionate, like that's a common activity they would do, let's say. So what would be an uncommon way to show compassion? Now I know it's late and I know you're like, just tell me. Just tell me. So I will. So compassion, which I love, is how about somebody who's a teenager shows compassion by when a friend misses out on something, goes to their friend's house and, you know, makes, you know, does something nice for a friend who missed out on a big event, or, you know, they did something nice for a neighbor that nobody asked them to. You know, so when a student starts to show something like this in a way that's different, and this is where parents can help. When you know the values of your student, and students ask your parents, when have there been times that I've done this that might not be like the usual? Because when you can show your values in an uncommon way, it makes your essay awesome. It really does. It's exciting to read. It's really fun to write. Stephanie just shared an idea that somebody came up with her. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to read her essay. You know, it's going to be so awesome. Okay? And I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I worked with a student who wanted to do what I call the mission statement, the mission trip. Now, mission trips are great. Like, that would be another way to show. I mean, there is, you heard me here first on the video. There's nothing wrong with mission trips. We love them. However, essays about mission trips, what do you think if you had to read a ton of them? Would you be psyched? They get a little long in the tooth, okay? So one time I had this girl come up to me, and she's like, Julie, I want to do fashion design. And I was meeting her for the first time, and she's like, and I want to do I said, okay, let's talk about your essay. She goes, I want to do the mission trip. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And so, you know, we keep talking. And she goes, and I said, well, where did you go, and what did you do? And she goes, I made 63 dresses for the people that I was going to. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, this mission trip is awesome. Because she wants to be a fashion designer. And so then I started in. I'm like, tell me, where did you get the fabric? How did you pack them? Her essay was great. Because it really, it was an uncommon way to show what she did that met her interest, and that's why it was so much fun to read. So does that make sense, that point? Okay, awesome. Okay, 2 types of college essay styles. Now, for students who are freshmen, sophomore, juniors, a lot of people, the hardest thing is how do I write it? Like, what style? So I just, you know, as just to give you some nuts and bolts, the narrative. A narrative is, think about movies you've seen. Think about movies that are good, think about movies that are bad. The other example I'll use is People magazine. You can laugh at People magazine all you want, but People magazine always shows people in a positive way. Have you ever noticed that? I'm going to give, I say A1 to People for that. They do not trash people. It's always the comeback story, shows them in a good light, and there's always a conflict. That's why it's fun to read. That's why I always want to spend $5 on that People magazine, because I have to know what happened. Anybody, am I the only one? Okay. That's my guilty pleasure, I admit it. Okay, I go to Henrietta Hankin and I read it for free. Okay? But a conflict or, you know, something happened makes the story, and that's the narrative. So we have the way it was, the conflict, what did you do, and then what's happening now. That's a very effective way to write a college essay. Okay? Most students can do that pretty well, as long as it's not boring. And we helped you with that with the values. Okay? Now, montage. If you are a gifted writer, or a decent writer, you know, average or above, and you don't have any one thing, but you want to show what you're really interested in and maybe give 3 different examples, I call this one the scrapbooking style. You know, you know how when you do a scrapbook and some people are really good at showing who they are? This can be an effective way of doing it. For somebody maybe who has learned something and like, wow, like I'm really into filmmaking and you know, here's 1 example, here's 2, here's 3. That can be, for somebody who can pull that off, that's called a montage. Okay, so those are the two ways that most students are going to write their essays. Most students actually write a narrative. We just don't want it to be boring. But I want to show the montage because if your student has decent writing skills and can pull that off, that can be really good too.
And I like to tell people that when you read your student's essay, or students, when you write your essay, it should sound very different than what you're actually doing in your English classes. Mm-hmm. The multi-paragraph, the formal writing, the use of certain or not using certain types of verbs, not referring it to first person, all of that kind of goes out the window. So when you read your first draft of many, mm-hmm. It should sound different because they're listening for that voice.
Right. Great. Okay, why can't I use the essay I wrote in English class? This is probably the number one question I get asked. And I always say, and I will say this, whenever I see the essay, whether they email it to me or hand it to me, I'm like, that is awesome. That is a great start. Yes. Because it's your first draft. But you need more time, and it's a different style. Okay, it's no longer, you do not have to introduce the prompt. Okay, you need to get right into there. Could only you have written it? Your 650 words is not a lot of words. It seems like a lot of words, but it's really not. It's about 1.5 pages max, is 650 words. So you want, when I pick up that paper and I read it, I want to say there's only one human being that could have written that essay. Okay? And even think of movies. You know, this is a time where if your kids are into movies or videos or whatever, you know, think of, and even as parents, watch how they edit. You know, when you go to a movie, like, do they drag you through every single thing about that happened? No. You know, you cut to the, you know, you shut, like, I would think about movies a little bit in how you're telling your story. Okay? All right. Okay, essay tips. You want to show the positive. And the gentleman from St. Joe's mentioned this too. Okay? Positive traits. Spin it so that we illuminate you. There's a positive way. In fact, just today I was helping somebody with one. And he said to me, he goes, you know, there's one more thing about me that I want in there. I want to say that I don't think I'm smart because I always want to learn more. Okay? Think about how he said that. He said that to me. And I said, how about if I said, so are you trying to say that you're intellectually curious? He's like, yeah. Which one are we going to put in the essay? I mean, I was blown away by what he said because I go, you don't think you're smart? He goes, no, I am, but I don't think I'm as smart as I can be. I go, but intellectually curious sounds a lot better to me. Okay? So these are the things that you want to do. And then the turn-offs. It's really important that students see this. It doesn't mean that you can't be human. It doesn't mean that you can't, you know, we all have positives and negatives. But in an essay, when you know you're supposed to be showing your best self, that is what an essay is for. It is not the time to go negative. It really isn't. It doesn't work. Nobody wants to read that, and it's not effective. Okay? So you want to make sure...
Can I add my little?
Yes, go right ahead. Please do.
Just to add in again, when we're working with students who might have an anomaly in their transcript, something happened during the year, there was something that occurred in their life or personally, that would be the time to use the essay to explain something like that. It would be more meaningful if the student could explain like a drop in grades or something like that. But they can do so in a positive way. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to talk about their depression or a death in the family or something like that, they mention it and they address the issue, but the whole point of the essay is this is how I've come back from this. This is what I've learned from this. This is how I've grown. So it's the same idea, but it's not that they can't mention those things. It's actually kind of important if there's a little bit of explanation that needs to go into something with the grades or the programming for the student in their high school career.
I have a student actually this year who he's on the West Coast student, and he was having time management issues. And he was writing his essay about it. So the way we did it and addressed it is he wrote, I said, well, when did you know that you had a problem and you had to change. And he said, when I got a 21 out of a 60 on a test or whatever it was, a quiz. So we just put it in there and said, he said, I decide, the time to change how my time management issues was the day after I didn't do well on a test, and then he just put the grade in parentheses. And then moved on, and then the rest of the essay was about all the awesome things he was doing. So you just, you touch on it, but it's sort of like, and now you're going forward. What are you doing now? And same with people who, and if there are people who suffer from depression, and it's a real thing, what you want to do is show the college that you can manage it, and you know what and you address what you're doing to stay healthy. That's the main thing. Because remember, admissions people are looking to make sure that you are a healthy person who can be a roommate, who can be on the campus, all those things. Okay, I mean, and it's a very real consideration that admissions takes very seriously when they're reading applications. Okay? When do I start? Are you guys all wondering that? When do I get to start doing this? Okay, it's never too early to start thinking, so my 9th grader, let's give him an extra hand. Okay, you will write one in your junior class, which is great. For some people, I mean, let's listen. If it wasn't for the last minute, what would get done, really and truly, right? So deadlines work, but when you are going to do this is the summer between your junior and senior year. You want to start writing your essays before school starts. It is absolutely zero fun, zero creativity, too stressful. You're not your best writing if you wait till after Labor Day. I don't let anybody I work with, it has to be done by Labor Day, that's it, that's all, or else I'm not going to work with you, because you just can't get a good product. You can't. Okay? Think about them, map out some ideas, and you want to do it over time. Start to write a little bit in July, August you're editing. Be open to feedback. Sometimes students, and parents are not, as much as we love our parents are not always the best people for an essay. And why? Because parents know the whole story, like they know too much. Sometimes it's better to have other people. And as a parent, even though you want to read it, like my sister, I helped her kids. I told her she would beg me to read them. I said, nope, you're not reading them until they're admitted. Drove her insane, but she would have meddled. Do you know what I'm saying? Like she would have got in there and wrecked it, okay? That's my sister, I can say it, okay? But there are some parents who can, if you are a parent who can, I'm not saying that's everybody. There are some parents that can be helpful, and that's fine, okay? But for the students, I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to know their values. That's why I like the 3 draft system. They have some writing that they feel good about, so that when we start editing, they're not feeling attacked. I mean, I want them to feel, and usually after 3 drafts, my students say, I love it. And I mean, there's nothing better than that, right? That feeling of pride, and they're brimming with joy. And I actually did have a student this year, I will say. She actually called me. A teenager called me. Can you believe it? On my phone.
Who would like to conclude session 2
to tell me that the college
Thank you all for coming
loved
out
her
and have a
essay.
safe trip home.
She was over the moon. And she did a great job on it. And she did not want to do 3 drafts, but she did. Okay?
This is the last slide.
Yeah, last slide. So this is a lot of the college essay stuff. Okay, this is the book. A lot of, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, which I completely understand, is awesome. Ethan Sawyer is fantastic. His stuff will help you. Also, libraries have books. You go right into Henrietta Hankin. I'm always hanging out in that resource section, if you want to see examples of essays. And then there's my information if you're interested in me helping you. But whoever helps you, remember, you want to illuminate the student, and it's worth spending a little time on it. It can make a difference, and usually it really helps the student feel buoyed in the process. Is there anything else?
Do you have any questions really quickly, or we can kind of hang out up here if you need?
Yeah. So, I wish you well. Good luck. Have fun. It's all good.
Thank
And I always get excited too. When there's one that it's like, yay, it's so exciting. Isn't it? All right, peeps, have a great night.
Thank you.
See you later.